April 30, 1945. Berlin is a city of ash and burning ruins. The Soviet Red Army has completely encircled the capital, advancing block by block with heavy armor. For the German High Command, every escape route has been severed. A military rescue is now geographically impossible. The focus of this entire massive siege rests on a specific building, the Reich Chancellery in the center of Berlin. The final moments of the bloodiest conflict in human history played out in an underground concrete room beneath these ruins. 8 meters below the Chancellery Garden, the Führerbunker was divided into 2 floors and 18 small rooms. There was no natural light and no fresh air. The only constant was the mechanical drone of the ventilation system. Over 30 people lived and worked in this cramped space, their psychological state deteriorating as the siege above intensified. The bunker functioned as a closed circuit, a private, self-contained universe entirely separate from the collapse of the city above. At midnight on April 29th, Hitler sat at his desk reviewing maps of military units that had long since been destroyed. His generals had stopped providing real tactical updates, choosing instead to offer the comfortable lies he wanted to hear. His physical decay was advanced. His left arm shook uncontrollably, and witnesses noted he looked as though he had aged 20 years in 6 months. At 2 a.m., less than 24 hours before his death, Hitler married his longtime companion, Eva Braun. Following the small ceremony, the couple hosted a reception. Attendees drank champagne and talked about the early days of the regime. The war was raging barely 500 meters above them, yet the bunker staff spent the early morning hours holding a celebration. During his final morning, Hitler exhibited an eerie, weightless calm while eating a simple vegetarian breakfast with his secretaries. That afternoon, he dictated his final political testament. He blamed the German military and the public for the defeat, while clinging to the same anti-Semitic ideology that had driven his life. His primary concern was the fate of his own corpse. 2 days earlier, Benito Mussolini had been executed, and his body publicly hung upside down in an Italian square. Hitler gave explicit instructions to his staff. His body was to be burned completely to ensure his enemies could not humiliate his remains. Even with the total ruin of Germany imminent, his focus remained on the preservation of his image and the denial of a final victory to his captors. As evening arrived, Hitler walked the hallways of the bunker one last time, offering wordless handshakes and nods to the remaining staff. To test the efficacy of his cyanide capsules, he ordered his medical staff to poison his German shepherd, Blondie. The poison worked instantly. Eva Braun reportedly wept at the sight, while Hitler remained silent. The successful test removed the last trace of uncertainty within the bunker. There was nothing left to wait for. At 10 a.m. on April 30th, Hitler received his final military briefing. The Soviet Red Army was now fighting just 1 or 2 blocks away from the bunker's ceiling. At 2:30 p.m., Hitler and Eva gathered the staff for a final round of silent handshakes. Witnesses noted that Eva Braun was smiling, appearing entirely at peace with the decision to commit suicide. They walked together into the private study and closed the heavy door. The closing of that door signaled the end of a 12-year dictatorship that had reshaped the world through terror. At 3:30 p.m., a single gunshot echoed through the concrete hallways. Inside the room, the staff found both bodies. Hitler had used a firearm, while Eva had taken cyanide. Guards quickly carried the bodies up the concrete stairs into the Chancellery Garden, even as heavy Soviet shells landed nearby. They poured petrol over the remains and set them on fire, fulfilling Hitler's final demand for total incineration. While the official surrender of Germany took place on May 8th, the Nazi regime truly died in that bunker. The war that cost tens of millions of lives concluded in the quiet of a concrete basement, behind a closed study door. Share this video with a history enthusiast. Next, we are looking into the Soviet interrogation rooms and the secrets that stayed hidden for decades. Subscribe so you don't miss it.